I don't know.
What
maybe
was this? This was obviously a Netflix movie, right?
This was a Netflix movie.
And it was not intended to be? They did it because of Corona?
I don't know if that's for sure. I know that they did a limited release in theaters, but Netflix also...
Before. When did it come out? In January or something?
No, they might have done limited releases. Besides New York, their theater's open.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Netflix also, a lot of the movies they produce, they'll still do a theater release just so that they can...
that was the whole Irishman thing.
The Irishman, just so that they can be nominated for Oscars. I don't know if this is going to get nominated for anything. I think Robert Pattinson should get nominated.
Did he have enough screen time?
Yeah. For Best Supporting Actor.
Isn't there a certain rule?
Not really. People are saying there should be rules.
Yeah.
So... a couple of years ago, I don't remember exactly what year, there was a movie called Hell or High Water. And in it, Jeff Bridges is essentially the main character of that movie. But they nominated him for Best Supporting Actor instead because they thought that... Jeff Bridges would have a better shot of winning Best Supporting Actor.
Gotcha.
So after that, it's
kind of a clever little thing they were trying to do.
I don't think they ever made an official.
Did he win the best?
No, he didn't win. So it didn't even work out.
I see
but people were saying like, no, he's the main character. Yeah. Like that's the only lead actor is the only thing he should qualify for. So they did kind of want to rule that. You could be in a movie for as little as possible, but they're saying if you have too much screen time, then you can't be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Because also, like,
but what if you're not? What if you're like the Joker in 1989 Batman, Jack Nicholson? He could be supporting actor.
I know
he's not the main character.
I know that's why it gets tricky.
Yeah,
that's why it gets tricky. Like, what really is a supporting? I think
that's pretty easy. It's just you're not the protagonist. No,
I mean, there are movies who have more than one protagonist.
Yes,
I mean,
that's fair.
The way they got it with Hell or High Water is basically like Jeff Bridges was a police officer and he was hunting down Chris Pine, who was a bank robber, and you kind of see it from both of their perspectives. And that's why they're trying to say like, oh no, Chris Pine was the main character. So there are ways to get around it, but there are a lot of people who think like if you exceed a like certain number of screen time, then you shouldn't be allowed. But Robert Pattinson, I think, is the best performance of the year. Tom Holland, who plays Arvin, I think is amazing. Arvin is the main character, the boy.
The boy, yeah, he was awesome.
He was great.
I tell you what, you're really rooting for this kid.
You are.
Towards the end, I'm like, they better kill every motherfucker in here. He better just go on a fucking shooting spree and kill all these motherfuckers.
Well, the point of the movie is he's supposed to not do that.
I know.
The point of the movie is that when you act on your violent urges, things always go wrong.
Sure.
I see I see two themes in this movie. One I kind of touched on of, the relationship to God. There's also the idea of like, the test of faith, where like,
which is so stupid.
Don't think that God's going to come down and save you. That's not what
I'm going to stab my wife in the neck.
Of thinking of
and then God's gonna
one there's the character who he drinks strychnine because he thinks like if I have enough faith in God, God will just protect me.
I don't remember that.
All right, so the pastor Roy, who murders his wife. His cousin is another pastor.
By the way, the earth did not miss that guy. I mean, he was not the brightest bulb.
No, he wasn't. In the first scene when he's going into the church, he's leading his cousin who's in the wheelchair, who's playing the guitar.
No, I know the character.
Oh, yeah. No. So Theo...
you're saying the guy who drank the thing.
He's in the wheelchair because he drank strychnine, because he believed, like, I'm going to do this test of faith where I can drink this poison and God will protect me and my faith is strong enough. And he ends up getting paralyzed from the waist down because, like, obviously. And there's this idea of, you know, if God exists, which I don't think the movie's really trying to say that God doesn't exist.
No.
I think it's trying to say.
I mean, it's kind of implied, but I wouldn't. They're not over the top with
it's
saying
not
that.
it's not a overtly atheist movie.
It's not. It's a corruption movie.
Yes, and they're trying to say of, if you think that some higher being is going to take precedent over your own actions, then you are delusional.
Yeah, straight up.
There's the character Roy who murders his wife because he believes that his faith in God is strong enough that he could bring her back.
Which is also just like, who the fuck are you to toy with someone else's life?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, I also think of that of just like, well, first of all, she wasn't in on it. So
no shit. She was fucking.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is like, this is not a willing participant.
No.
So this is how you think God works. Yeah. Of your faith in God is so strong that you can kill somebody who has no idea what this is like. You had any of these plans.
Check this out.
And that
I've been watching a lot of Forensic Files.
Oh.
And
okay.
So I watched this episode last night, and it's about this fucking police officer, true story, they're all true. This police officer who wants to be the chief of police in the city. This is like in 2004, like semi recently. But he can't become the chief of police because for whatever rules, the chief of police needs to live within the city limits, and he lived outside of the city.
I mean, I think that's most.
But so check this out. So he had a job with the police force that he was allowed to do with his address, but he couldn't be the chief because he didn't live within the municipality or some shit like that. I don't know why. So he tells his wife that he wants to move to the city.
Okay.
So he could do this job, but she doesn't want to leave because they're from this town. So he hires these people to rob his own house to get his wife convinced that it's a dangerous neighborhood and they need to move.
This sounds like Fargo.
So they rob the guy's house and they fucking kill his wife.
Oh my God.
Like it just goes, I guess he hired two fucking morons.
That's kind of the plot of Fargo.
All right,
not
we did
really.
It, boss.
Yeah.
Wait. Well, she's dead. She's dead. Didn't you want us to kill? No. Like, I don't know how you get that wrong. Like, just be like, by the way, don't murder her. Like that. To me, that feels like a detail that needs to be taken care of ahead of time. But anyway,
but
the point is, who are you to make these decisions?
Yes.
To fuck with people's lives. And I was also thinking, like, man, like, is this how it was back in the day?
I mean, down south in the late 40s, 50s, and 60s, I'm sure that there was a lot of that.
Dark shit.
Well, so why I say is that this movie isn't like an overtly atheist movie is because there is kind of like the hint of like a higher power going on. I talked about the narrator, and the movie is narrated by kind of this voice who you never see who this person is, who's kind of talking about the entire movie, who's narrating the entire thing, but it is kind of this objective, unemotional narrator who's telling the story but takes no action on it, and I always thought that was kind of the voice of God.
I must have been high or something, but I didn't notice there was a narrator.
How'd you not notice that there was a narrator?
I really didn't. There was a narrator?
Throughout the entire movie. What are you talking about?
I didn't notice that.
How'd you not notice that there's a voice narrating the entire movie?
Saying what?
Telling you what's going on. Going into like how'd you not notice that there was a fucking dude narrating the entire movie?
I literally have no idea what you're talking about. I was just
Yeah, the entire movie. Hold on, I gotta get into my mic. Yeah, the entire movie there's a fucking narrator.
I must have missed that.
Okay. All right.
I'm not honestly 100%. I'm not fucking around. Like this is actually, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, the dude who wrote the book narrates the entire movie.
Really?
Yes.
I considered not sharing that thought because I was like, well, I can't admit that. It's happening the whole time.
Yeah, the entire movie. It starts off with narration. He talks about these two towns that the movie takes place in.
Yeah.
And, all right, so I talk about there is kind of a voice of God.
Didn't stand out
in the movie. And there is just like a lot of coincidence going on. Like, it seems like almost a lot of what happened was fated to happen. Like,
Like what?
Arvin's parents and the couple that are serial killers, they both meet on the same diner at the same day. Arvin's stepsister's parents are then murdered by that serial killer, who Arvin would then later run into later in life.
End of the movie.
Then the corrupt sheriff, Sebastian Stan, who tries to murder Arvin at the end, is the same guy who picked him up in his police car. Yeah. And also he says this kind of just really fucking asshole line, which I think because Sebastian, the cop.
You're trying to say a cop was being an asshole? I don't know where this guy gets his ideas from. I gotta be honest with you. That's a wacky one, Greg. Let's see you follow that up.
Where the movie is saying like these characters are bad because they're religious, but there are unreligious bad people also with the cop, who's not particularly like, he doesn't see himself as a voice of God, but he does kind of see himself as kind of the authority of this town. And he says a really asshole thing to Arvin when after Arvin's father kills himself. He's in the back of the car and he's just like, listen, your father wasn't anything. Some people are just born so that they can be put in the ground. And it's such a scummy thing to say. And
what does that even mean? Like what kind of like,
it's just,
well, I guess I said that about the preacher guy, like the earth wasn't missing him or something.